Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of On Point for today, Friday, the 6th day of February 2026. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and of course, it is always my pleasure being here every Friday afternoon to spend an hour with you. And it's normally an hour well spent, because when I leave here, I am in need of some lunch when I leave here. So, you know, I will talk throughout that hour, and of course, it is always gratifying to do so, yes. As it is this afternoon as well. I want to say from the onset that I have a guest with me this afternoon, but I'll get to my guest shortly. But generally speaking, I just want to say good afternoon to all of the folks who are listening to Von Radio this afternoon, 860 AM and 93.7 FM. And let me start with the folks up there in St. James. Good afternoon to all of the listeners there in St. James, my hometown, my home constituency, and throughout the whole of Nevis as well, St. Thomas, St. Paul, St. John's, and St. George. And of course, in St. Kitts as well, we do have a large following there in St. Kitts. I want to say good afternoon to all who are listening to Von Radio there, whether by way of radio, Facebook platform, or even YouTube and other platforms as well. And of course, we go down to St. Martin, or before we get to St. Martin, Statia, Sabre, St. Bart's, and French and Dutch St. Martin, and also going to the Virgin Islands, British and US Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, and then come back east and south of us, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, and go down to Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, all the way down to Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and way south of us, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course Guyana. And I do this from time to time, especially when it comes to the Caribbean. It's because we have quite a number of our nationals from these various islands and countries that are living among us, and we want to say to those who tune into Von Radio to get ideas to what is happening in Nevis, I want to welcome you, because of course your listenership is important to us. Of course, we go up to the United States, starting the way down South Florida or West Key West, all the way up to those northern northeastern states of New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont, and so forth, those smaller states. But of course, where we have a lot of our nationals will be in the New York area, and of course we go across into the west, Texas and Missouri and those states in the Midwest, and of course the western flank of the United States, California, Oregon, and Washington State, and the whole of Canada, Toronto, Quebec, Montreal, all those cities where we have our nationals. Up in Europe as well, we have quite a number of folks in England and France and Germany and the likes, and then we go into Asia, and I single out the Republic of China, Taiwan, one of our best partners in what we are seeking to accomplish as a developing nation. They've been our partner from since we got our independence, and we want to thank them for everything they've done for us and continue to do for us as a nation. Well, back home now, and as I said from the get-go, I have with me a guest this afternoon, a very important guest as well, and someone who is no stranger to Von Radio, because he has been here on a number of occasions and will continue to come, I dare say, because that is the type of person he is. I'm speaking of none other than Dr. Tivon Browne. That name is familiar to everybody in Nevis. And Dr. Browne, I'll let you introduce yourself, but I will say before you do so that I didn't know much of you before. I probably got to know a little bit of you somewhere about a year or two ago. You know, my cousin who works at the Butler's Health Center, Leonie Skeet, he speaks highly of you. Yeah. And so he's always talking about Dr. Browne, and there's a good friend of mine over there in Brick Hill. I'm not going to call her name, but of course you have quite a number of fans over there in the Brick Hill area, of course Butlers as well, but they're the ones who continue to speak highly of you, and I want to publicly say that of course you're beginning to make a name for yourself. Yeah. And I say that in the most humble of ways, and I wanted to appreciate that people do love and embrace what you do for them as a doctor here on the island of Nevis and in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as well. So I'll give you a chance just to say a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into the discussion and to let the general public know why we're here.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone out there. And I would like to express my thanks for Minister Jeffers having me here today to speak to you. So my name is Dr. Tivon Browne. I'm from Butler's Village, born in St. Kitts but raised in Butler's Village. I'm a St. James patron, strongest to my heart. I love the people there. I love the people all over in Nevis, but St. James is home, and that's where I represent to the fullest levels. I studied in Grenada, the UK, and the US. I got my medical training done in those 3 places. Lived in Canada, worked there for a bit before coming back home to serve the people here in Nevis.
Very nice, very nice. And let me say this. I believe I mentioned it to you before we got on live, but I called you yesterday, and just to show and to demonstrate to the general public how accommodating you were yesterday. I called you at 2:15. I made a note of it somewhere in my book here. By 2:16, when I look at my watch, you were gone, meaning the conversation was very short. And I asked you if you were available today, and you asked me where. I said Von Radio. I told you about On Point, and you said no problem. And you did say that it is your civic duty to come and speak to the general public, and that stuck with me from then until now. And I said I'll mention it from the onset here this afternoon, because I thought that was very appreciative of you to say such and to make yourself available when the situation arises. So I want to thank you from the get-go for being here, and that is certainly the hallmark of someone who is destined for good things here on the island of Nevis. We need that. Right? Yes. Okay, so Dr. Browne, we're here this afternoon, and just to give a backdrop, Wednesday, 4th of February, that is this past Wednesday, was World Cancer Day. And that is a day that is that has been identified or earmarked by the United Nations as a day when we bring awareness to cancer and so forth, and that dreaded disease. I have paid particular attention to cancer and its effects because I myself would have had personal dealings with the situation, not personally myself, but at least my mom would have passed away in 2004. That was 22 years ago, about a long time ago. But of course, these things stay with you.
Of course, yes.
Because that's my mom, or she was my mom, and of course, one mom, and you tend to have that thinking, and you embrace that kind of thinking throughout the years of what your mom would have done for you and so forth. So she would have passed away from breast cancer, and it was a very quick process, really, to be honest with you, and that as well has stayed with me. And that is why this afternoon the discussion is important, and not only now but over the years to come. It should be a discussion that remains within our space here in Nevis, and it should be something that we should always find every opportunity to educate the public if we can. So in terms of cancer and your exposure to that particular disease in terms of dealing with persons and so forth, you can certainly start off by looking at some of the ways in which or we can start first of all and say, well, what are the causes and effects and so forth of cancer, and what impact it has on families and persons in general.
Right.
So generally speaking,
So generally speaking, cancer is a multifactorial illness. You have genetic components where certain individuals might be predisposed to developing a certain type of cancer based on family ties and illnesses that run in the family. And there's also the environmental component of developing cancer, where some things you eat, your workplace, chemicals you're exposed to, exposure to environmental factors like sunlight could also contribute to you developing certain types of cancers. So when you put the genetic factors together with the environmental factors, you basically breed a situation for developing a cancer. Cancer's impact is very, very great, very wide. It's not just the individual who develops the cancer or goes through the cancer that is affected by it. I mean, the family members are affected, loved ones are affected, friends, the community is affected, even the island itself and the country is affected by every individual who develops and suffers from and eventually passes away from cancer, because we're all connected here in this country.
Sure.
So what affects one definitely affects all. So the effects are far-reaching, and that's why it's something that we should be taking really seriously. And I mean, the UN itself decided we need a whole day to dedicate towards cancer. Just cancers in general, there's so much types. Wednesday itself was the day where we're supposed to wear a particular color for a particular cancer that either affects us or we want to raise awareness about. So I mean, the whole rainbow, the array of colors that represent all the different cancers is, outstanding to me, because I never even knew they had so much different shades of blue and green. And each shade alone represents a cancer, just to show you how much cancers there are, how far-reaching this condition is.
Right. So World Cancer Day is, in a nutshell, a day to raise awareness.
Yes.
Awareness, if we can use that as the operating word. In terms of the type of cancers, though, you said there are a wide array of cancers. Maybe we can look at some, and of course, after looking at them, naming them, we can look at perhaps symptoms, and then we look at some of the things that can be done to mitigate or to, sort of ensure that we don't progress to that stage. But let us look at some of the type of cancers that are prevalent these days, especially here on the island of Nevis or in the Federation.
So prevalent cancers here include colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer. We also have some lung cancer, some skin cancer. We have sarcomas, which are muscle and tissue-based cancers developing here. And those are the most common ones we come across. We know the prostate cancer is a big one, especially in the male population. Those who normally get their screening done would have had their screenings done last month with Dr. Thwaites and the team. Breast cancer, we do mammogram screenings all year round at the Alexandra Hospital. And your doctor sends out a requisition for you to get that screening done, because there's a lot of breast cancer going around, and I've seen a lot of people affected in my short time being here back on island, and it's important to really get the outreach done. And I think during March, breast cancer awareness month, October, I think Women's Month in March, that's when we usually hear about the offering for free mammograms and whatnot for females who want to get tested. The colon cancer, a lot of that because of what we've been eating. The diet has changed into a more processed food diet, and the more chemicals we put into our intestines, the more affected they become by these chemicals, and the higher chances of developing a cancer from these things. And the skin cancer, we're down here in the sun, we're exposed, chronically exposed, and not because we are mostly a black population and we got melanin in the skin that we're 100% protected from developing skin cancer. I've seen a few skin cancers down here in people, and it kind of touches on that, because you're here, we're good, we're black, we are protected, but still people develop skin cancer no matter what skin color, skin tone they have. And it's still serious. So in terms of you mentioned colon and prostate cancer and so forth, and you discuss, or you just mentioned the lifestyle and so forth. What can we say in terms of ensuring that if you were diagnosed tomorrow, you look at the stages that you're at and the possibility of cure and so forth, meaning there are various stages when you hear someone is at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, that kind of thing. And then you can look at how important it is for regular checkups so as to ensure that you're catching this disease early. So you can look at the stages and the possibilities of cure or management thereafter, that kind of thing. Right, yes. So one of my specialties is preventive medicine, and one core element of preventive medicine is a heavy emphasis on health screenings. Health screenings are the best way to capture developing cancers and developing illnesses in general. Screenings, they're cheap, they catch a wide net of people, and they're very effective. We basically screen people. We check you for a particular illness. We check your vitals. We check your numbers. The cancer screenings you might hear about and see are colonoscopies. You got the prostate exam. You have the mammogram, and you also have, let's see, colonoscopies. What else? For skin cancer, you check the skin, check for lesions, these kind of things.
Right.
And those screenings, they kind of pick out the persons who may have a higher probability of developing the illnesses. And with that, now we could do further testing on those individuals to determine if they do have it or not, or if they're on their way to developing it or not. And with that early detection, the cost of treating and the invasiveness of treating is way less than if you wait until you reach a far stage.
Right.
Now, we got stages from 1 to 5 in most cancers.
Yeah.
And within the stages themselves, there's a different classification, a TNM, which describes the morphology or the look of the particular cancers or the cancer cells to see how they look, how different are they from the normal cells that they're supposed to be. And that would kind of determine how far along an individual is in developing their cancer. So the earlier stages, the treatments are easier. The later the stages are, the treatments are more rough, they're more expensive, and they're less likely to be effective.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if we look at prostate cancer, for example, some of the things that you look for, we always hear of PSA number.
Yes.
And then, of course, we would go down to the screening process annually with Dr. Tweeds, and then we'll do a digital rectal examination. So those are two things that apparently are used to determine whether you're, I'm going to use the word good, or whether you're heading in the wrong direction, for the lack of better term. So we can look at the numbers in terms of what the doctor would look for in terms of numbers, and in terms of the rectal examination, what characteristics they look for and so forth.
Right. So in regards to the blood test being done, the PSA test, you're looking for a free PSA of between 0 and 4. That's normal in males. So anything above that is something for, a cause for concern. You want to get a detailed study done, whether that be an ultrasound or whether that be a biopsy, depending on the levels. Now, I've seen people with levels of 15,000. Remember, I told you the highest we want that to be is 4. So
4, right.
I mean, it's David and Goliath, right? Yeah. You could get to that level.
Wow.
So that's the PSA test, and we can't rely. A lot of men ask me, like, well, you can't just rely on that blood test alone to determine, my cancer, status, prostate cancer status. The PSA is not a perfect test for determining prostate cancer, because the PSA could be elevated in other cases as well. I mean, if you have a hard stool movement, a hard bowel movement, that could elevate your PSA. If you had a recent digital rectal exam, that could elevate your PSA. If you had a prostate infection, that could elevate your PSA. So we can't just say PSA cancer. PSA tells us something is going on with the prostate, but we need more detail, and that's where the digital rectal exam comes in. Now, the rectal exam, we look for the size of the prostate, the texture. Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it bumpy? Is it smooth? These kind of things determine, if the cancer is developing or if your prostate is fine or not. Because for some reason, most of the cancers and growths in prostates, they tend to develop mostly in the posterior aspect, which is more towards the anal region, and that's why it's important for us to do the digital rectal exam, because that's where you would find a problem first.
Okay. Gotcha. So in terms of the screening that is done annually, your advice to any young man or any male out there, I say young man, but any male out there, do not rely solely on that.
The PSA, no. The digital rectal
the PSA,
exam.
but even the screening that is done, you would always recommend that they go to their regular physician.
Yes.
And do a complete blood work, for example, that could say more things.
Of course, yes, because we have a lot more illnesses out there than just prostate cancer. I mean, yes, prostate cancer is men specific, but we have a bunch of different conditions out here, and a lot of people say they don't want to know, they rather not know, and they rather just figure it out later, but it's best to know as early as possible.
Well, the reason why I say that is because some folks would go to the screening down there in January, and with that they say, I got a good report from the doctor, and that's it for them. But I still believe that is actually good for what it's worth.
Yes.
But you also need to stay on top of every other thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's where the actual complete blood work will come into play. In terms of the female now, in terms of discovery of lumps and so forth in the breast, some may say not all lump can be considered cancerous, and it could be a matter of persons with big bust or whatever the case might be. But your suggestion or recommendation to females in terms of staying on top of the pap smear and mammogram and that type of thing, it is not so much just to go to the screening, but do all other things that are important.
Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to the breast aspect, a female should get to know their own anatomy. You are the best person to determine if there is a change in your anatomy or not. And that's why we always recommend the self-check exams. We teach females, and we teach everybody, even the males, we teach them how to examine the breast tissue in a proper, thorough way in order to determine, okay, if there's a change in the architecture or not. Yes, some people's breasts are, they have lumps, they have different feels, different textures. Now you would be the best person again to determine if yours is changed or not. Wherein you might have a lump in your left breast, but you have already gotten that checked out, it's normal, it's just a little extra growth. If you go to a new doctor with that lump, the doctor would automatically determine, this is a problem.
Right.
But you getting to know yourself and knowing that that lump has been there from X amount of years, never changed, never grown, you had it examined before, you could always put a stop to it and say, yes, this has been there all the time, no problem for concern there. So you move on with that. And if you ever do a self-exam and you determine that you find something new, something strange, then you could take that, go to the doctor, let the doctor check that out even more, and determine where to go from there.
Right.
Now, you might want to do an ultrasound, you might want to do a mammogram, you might want to do a biopsy. The doctor will determine which level of investigation needs to be done based on what you presented with.
So, we have heard it being said that the cancer has spread. You were diagnosed with prostate cancer, for example, and you hear it has spread to other organs. Well, what causes that, and what other organs, that type of thing? What does it mean when we hear the cancer has spread?
Right. So spread, or metastasis, as we say in the medical world, is basically the cancer or the cells that have been going under this unregulated growth has escaped their boundaries. Usually all tissue has a boundary in the body, and it only grows up into that boundary. Say you cut your finger, your skin cells in your finger, they're going to grow back, and they're not going to grow further than passing that level of your finger.
Right. Okay.
You lose a piece of your liver, maybe you donate your liver or something like that. It's going to grow back, but only towards the boundary of the liver. Cancer is just these cells growing beyond the boundaries. They're unregulated, they don't stop, they just keep growing and growing and growing. And if they grow fast enough or even big enough, they could escape that boundary. When they escape the boundary now, that's how they end up in different parts of the body. They still, let's say it's prostate cancer, it escaped the prostate into the lower back or the lungs or the liver or something like that. It's still prostate cells having expanded growth in those different areas now. And that's basically the gist of the thing there. Unregulated growth spreading into different areas, and when they go to the different areas and grow, that's when they start to have even worse problems, because these cells, they need something to feed the growth. And they start tapping into the organs supply, the nutrient supply, the blood supply, and that's why the body gets drained. That's why you find individuals losing a lot of weight, or they're getting weak, because the cancer cells are basically stealing the nutrients from the rest of the body.
Gotcha. Okay, so in terms of, I think you mentioned lifestyle. changes, and what are some of the things we should be doing, or some of the products that we should be avoiding? We always hear about sugar, and we hear people say cancer is sugar and sugar is cancer, that kind of thing, meaning that sugar feeds cancer cell and so forth. So perhaps you can then look at some of the adjustments that we should be making on a daily basis, some of the things we should do to at least try to minimize the chances, because things will happen, okay?
So outside of just doing the screenings that we should do at particular ages, we should definitely be cutting out all this processed food, this fried food. These things are one of the greatest contributing factors towards developing these cancers. And, you know, in recent times, studies shown that for female-based cancers, ovarian cancers, cervical cancer, breast cancer as well, you find that those who use hair relaxers, these other kind of hair-based products, they have been found to be the ones developing these cancers more often than the women who don't use those products. So there seems to be a link between them. I can't say that they cause the cancers, but there's some kind of established correlation, and we need to investigate that a little bit more. But that just goes back to the whole chemical aspect. Using chemicals on the body will have an effect. I mean, these chemicals, they change your cells, they change the body function, and of course, it's somewhere along the line they cause this unregulated growth. And, you know, if we could avoid chemicals as much as possible, I think that would go a long way. Use natural products, natural foods, fresh foods, straight from the ground type foods, no canned preservatives added in these foods. I think these are the things that are really affecting us a lot in terms of, you know, these cancers and whatnot. And I mean, personally, I'm trying to look into the possibility of deodorants, you know, what the deodorants contribute towards cancer, because deodorants stop us from excreting waste from the body, and if you're not excreting that waste from the body, then where it's trapped inside, you know, and what kind of effect that has on the body itself.
It's interesting that you spoke of some of these products, because the labels on these products, I mean, you'll have to get a magnifying glass to actually see what the contents are, and of course, in our part of the world, there aren't any too many regulatory framework or bodies that would say, well, this product should not be on our shelf or whatnot. So we are at the mercy of some of the suppliers, I suppose. But I mentioned something earlier that when we were going to school as young kids going to school, we went to school to learn to read, and now that we're older, we should be reading to learn, and we should be reading some of these things, because if you see some of the names or the ingredients that are in these products, you wonder, well, what are these? These are foreign names, you know, or foreign words or ingredients, and I suppose we are killing ourselves slowly and we don't even know.
Exactly.
Because something may smell good, but it's not good. Something may taste good and not good, and that is how these products probably are marketed. They should taste good, smell good, and you get a good feel good, you know, that feel good type of feeling. And so products are important to read, to see what the contents are, and we must all be doing our research as well too. Certain things. Anything
you put in or on the body, we should be thoroughly educated about it.
Yeah, that's right. So in terms of cancer, you would say that depending on the stage that it is caught, then there is a possibility of managing and possibly curing.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, the earlier you catch it, the better. I mean, like we talked about the spread aspect of it. It has to get to that point of either reaching a conduit to travel to another part of the body, or just grown big enough to escape its established boundaries. Now, if we catch it when it's 1 millimeter versus, you know, 1 inch, that's a significant thing right there. Catch it in 1 millimeter, you treat it at 1 millimeter, you get rid of it at 1 millimeter, versus trying to treat it at 1 inch. I mean, there's more you need to do.
That's true.
Yes. I mean, even in resection, like say we find a cancer 1 millimeter in size, you still have to cut out at least 2 centimeters of normal tissue surrounding that 1 millimeter in order to kind of get a more assurance that you've gotten rid of that cancer.
Yes.
So imagine now with the inch, you gotta cut 2 centimeters circumference from that 1 inch thing. So the bigger it gets, the more of your normal tissue you have to remove, and I mean, it's almost like being butchered.
Yeah.
Yes.
I understand, and so thus the emphasis should be placed on early detection and visiting, because there's always this stigma out there that male, for example, I'm speaking from the male side of it, males don't like to go to the doctor. I don't know why, but women are always in the doctor's office. I mean, I have a few ladies who I know, and every now and then you hear them saying, I'm heading to St. Kitts, or heading to my doctor, or heading to Dr. Browne, or whatever the case might be. But we're not hearing that same tune, so to speak, coming from our males. So you're a male, I'm a male. I am here to encourage our males to get more serious with their health
100%
issues. If you can put out an an appeal. I laugh when I say that, but I mean, if you can put out an appeal, your words as a doctor may have a different effect or impact on males out there, that if I were to say from these microphones, males, go and check your doctor.
Right. I mean, we preach the message non-stop, and no matter how long it takes, how much times we have to say it, we gotta say it.
Yeah.
And if today changes one person's opinion or one person's mindset and leads them into getting the health check, then I think we did a good thing.
Yes.
So I'm appealing to all the males out there, especially the females too, but this one for the males, because we know there's something about the male culture, I don't know if it's here or just globally, that, you know, we're not supposed to be soft. We're not supposed to seek help. We only need to look for help when something hurts or something is bad, something really extremely bothering. But regular checkups pick up the things that we can see. You know, they call hypertension the silent killer,
right? Because
you don't get the symptoms until you're already near a stroke or a heart attack. But before you get to that stage, your pressure had been rising for the longest while. So if you were doing regular screenings, you could have stopped that right there in its tracks.
Yeah, true.
So regular early screening, yearly checks. I mean, you only need to go to see your doctor once a year, at least once a year.
Yeah.
Get yourself checked up. Have the peace of mind for a year long to know that your health is good, or you found something in the earlies and it's being dealt with now. So men, please go get yourselves checked.
And the good thing, Doc, is that some of the apparatus that I use, like your blood pressure machine and your
the blood sugar
blood sugar needle sticks or whatever the case might be, those are available on on the shelf now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're not as expensive. You must not rely on that though, but at least you get a sense.
Yes.
If you were to check regularly, say every couple of weeks you take up your blood pressure machine and you do your own check, then you can record that as well.
Yes.
And even when you even when you go to your doctor, you can take your little book.
I find that really helpful, you know, like the patients who bring those,
you because can take your little book to the doctor and say, Doc, this is what I've been recording over the last couple of months. Yeah,
it's good because
that would give the doctor an idea as to what is happening with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's more evidence for me to work with.
Yes.
So, you know, I always appreciate that when patients bring the books and you know, they show that they've been checking regularly, because that's another thing about it too. Yes, you develop a condition, you get diagnosed, your doctor gives you treatment, but there's no continuity of care in that aspect. There's no follow-up, there's no check-in. Like, if you have high blood pressure, you should be checking your blood pressure every once in a while. If you have high blood sugar, you should be checking that often.
Sure.
So it's not because you're taking the medication, everything's good. You still need to do your regular checks.
So we must say, do not get weary in well doing, meaning when it's all said and done, the same attention we give our vehicles or any other machine out there, then we should also pay that kind of attention to our bodies, because our bodies are we are a machine to some extent, and how we go is how everything else goes, because if we don't have that or the strength and the willpower to do certain things, then nothing else get done.
Exactly.
So we must continue our conversation, even as males, instead of sitting down on the block and talking about things that are not important and germane to our development. We should be talking health matters.
Oh yeah.
It is, and it's a conversation that can yield. Because here's the thing, I might say something, and the next person listening might be able to learn something from that.
Exactly.
And then you hear I just mentioned getting your own blood pressure machine and recording these things. Maybe someone out there may not have been doing it, but now they understand it is something that can be done easily. You go down to the pharmacy here in Charlestown or wherever they are, up at Government Road, wherever they are, and you buy one. Or you ask a family member, if you're going to the United States, bring back one for me. Yeah? And you keep that, and you do your own little self-check. And then you record the information and you present it to your doctor accordingly.
Yes.
And it is important, very important, to stay in touch with your doctor. Have your doctor on speed dial, so to speak. Yeah?
I'm saying,
I don't think you would disregard your patient's call.
No.
When he or she calls.
Not in a dire situation, especially, you know.
But I'm speaking to all males now because we have to continue to preach to all males. This whole thing about consumption of alcohol and drinking 6 Guinness and 10 beers in a night, for example, cannot be the way to go. Because I've said it before here on these microphones and wherever I go. You spend X amount of money partying, frolicking and drinking a lot of alcohol, and then you develop these health conditions, and then you have to spend this enormous amount of money to correct a problem that you'd have created by spending your money to create that problem. Yeah, whether you smoke, whether you drink, whatever bad habits you have, there are monies that are needed to fuel that. And then you develop these conditions and these difficulties, and then you have to find money to go and correct a problem that you could have avoided in the first place. And so that is for males, because well, women these days, young girls these days, are drinking things that I thought only men would drink.
Right.
All of these drinks out there, like Magnum and Boom and what they call them, these,
what's that other one? Rude Boy.
Rude Boy, these energy drink. Young ladies I'm seeing consuming these things, and it, in my opinion, if I were to give some advice, a free advice, to stay away from these things. But the sales are enormous with these things around here, and it's unfortunate as to where we're headed, but it really becomes a burden on our healthcare system when these practices go unchecked. And they are just, you know, things are just wild, you know. It's costly, and that is why I'm so happy that you're here, so we can have a conversation to let people know that the cost of not taking care of your health can be enormous in the end. And so you couldn't get it better from anyone but the doc himself. So.
Right.
We did say that the possibility of survival from any form of cancer is possibly there, but if you were to dissect it and say, well, if you're diagnosed early, all of them are treatable or curable, or there are some which are, whether they're caught early or not, they're not curable but treatable or manageable. Maybe if you can give a distinction, and we can get a better idea.
Yeah, some of them, when you catch them, even if you catch them early, you know, you can't fully get rid of them.
Right.
I'll say that straight up. There's some cancers that you can't cure, but you could manage them with treatment, whether that be surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation. Others, you catch them early enough, you could completely get rid of them. And all you need to do is some follow-up to make sure that another section of that area isn't developing into a cancer or whatnot. I mean, for example, there's a skin cancer, melanoma. Some people say that's basically a death sentence. You develop melanoma and you may pass away within 5 years or so, depending on how aggressive it is, because it's one of these that travel through the lymphatic system, which is parallel to your blood system. So it has a lot of pathways to move from one area to the next and cause damage in that sense. But it's very manageable. The medications are a bit expensive for melanoma treatment, but manageable to give you, you know, a normal enough lifestyle for a bit longer than that 5 years for sure. The same thing they say about lung cancers. You find a lung cancer, and most of them, they say you might pass away within the next 5 years as well too, or even 3. So, you know, treatment, management, very important. Like we said again, you catch it in the earlier stages, it's easier to manage that way than if you catch it in a later stage where it's a whole big problem.
Yeah. So in terms of, do you have any statistics as to which cancers are more prevalent and which has caused more death, that type of thing? Do you have any, or if you don't have statistics, just a general idea as to what are the more aggressive ones, meaning that we are confronted with here in the Federation?
Prostate, breast, and colon.
In that order?
Yes.
Prostate cancer.
So those are the more common cancers we deal with here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and those are cancers you could catch easily early with screening. So proper health screening could catch those early. Prevention of the colon cancers, that's more lifestyle than anything else. I mean, you find an individual, if you find an individual 20-something years old, 30-something years old with colon cancer, then one would kind of assume that's a genetic thing. But most individuals develop these things around age 50, 40, late 40s, early 50s is when you kind of start seeing the cancer pathology start for these individuals, and that's why we say, you know, women should start doing mammograms at age 40. Men should start doing prostate checks at age 40. Everyone should start doing a colonoscopy at age 50. Women get their pap smears age 21, whatever age you start having sexual activity, because that's the way the virus is passed on to the females and the males that cause the development of cervical cancer.
Right, okay.
So, you know, these kind of things, that's why the age ranges for screening are so important, because we know certain activity happens at certain ages. So if we start looking at these things at this age or that age, we could easily catch it before it becomes a big problem.
Got you. Have you ever come across any situation where there have been any clinical trials of any type of drugs or anything in the Federation, or do we or are the laws not in favor of such? When I say in favor of such, when I say in favor of such, but I know throughout the United States you hear about these drugs coming to market and you have these trials and so forth. Are those being done anyway in the Federation or in the Caribbean of any sort?
I know in certain Caribbean countries we have stem cell research being done and other biochemical research being done, but you need a facility for that kind of thing.
Okay.
We have laws here that speak to research and that kind of thing, and the process is it's a rigorous process that you have to go through to get approval to do these kind of things.
Right.
Through the chief medical officer and the medical board as well. But there is a possibility for these things.
I just ask and hoping that people are not being things are not being tried on people without the necessary legal protocols being followed.
I remember they had one story about some guy who came down and did a thing in Marriott or something.
A few years ago there was some controversial thing over on St. Kitts somewhere, but I can't recall where it was and what it was, but there was some talk in the air. There are various countries around here that have different forms of clinical trials that are being done. I'm just thinking that, well, we are not at that stage, and hopefully not at that stage at this point in time. I will not get there anytime soon either, because when you hear about trial, it sounds like someone is being made into a guinea pig or
experimented.
Something. Yeah. So I brought it up for a reason, because I'm hoping that we're not heading in that direction. Okay. So, well, Doc, I know I said that we were going to be here for just about a half an hour, but you know, when it's all said and done, sometimes you get into a flow.
Yeah, man.
And we've been here for 45 minutes, so at least we're 15 minutes over your time.
that's okay. That's more than okay.
You're a busy person, but I believe we have covered quite a number of things here this afternoon. I had some notes here, so I just was going on what I had. But I know you personally, you don't need any notes for anything, because you're the trained specialist in the room. So
I spent a good 7 years getting to the point. So if I can't say it out my head now, then we got a problem.
Exactly. But just on another note, I think you have started. I think I saw an office there in the Springate building.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a practice that you have there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, listen, it doesn't hurt to say that you have that office, you know.
Well, I would correct you there. It's not just an office, it's a clinic.
Is it okay? Well,
oh, yes.
Better yet. Yeah?
So, yeah, I mean, I found when I came back here, the model of practice has been a little bit, dare I say, selfish.
Yeah.
In that it's just one office, one doctor. You come, you see them, you leave, you go. In the States and in Canada and the UK and other places, you see more of a shared practice model where you have a different amount of things going on in that area.
Different specialists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's better for patients. It's like a one-stop shop.
Right.
Where you go to a store that only carries grapes and then got to go to another store that carry oranges if you're looking for something. So we're trying to put together everything in one spot. The name of the business is Quality Care Clinic. We're located in the Springett building on Government Road, unit number 5. And there we do asthma care, we do mental health counseling, doctor consultations, pulmonary function testing, EKGs, 24-hour Holter monitors. We have a lab test being done there as well. So we're trying to package a whole array for the patients, you know, make it easier for them to receive the care and get the diagnostics done.
Good, very good. Okay, well, you know, I did start by saying that you're into health and wellness education, and health and wellness education encompasses many things, including your practice as well.
Yes.
And this course that we're having is all part of what you're into, along with other things, because I read something the other day where you're into sports and all kind of different things. I've never seen you playing cricket or football or anything though.
Well, I got a little held back from that when I was younger because most of the practices were on Saturdays, and I'm an Adventist.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But when I was in the States, I used to play football a lot.
Yeah.
And in school as well.
Got you.
Didn't get much cricket, but I ended up switching over to baseball.
Okay. And I'm going to put you on the spot before we finish because we have this health fundraiser that we have had over there, the Brick Hill and Butlers community. We have had that for the last 5 years thereabout. But I've been doing my part over there for many years because I can recall back in the late 2000s, I started a program there with the Medical University of the Americas. The students, we used to have this health screening done, and then I ran into some challenges with the Ministry of Health. Yeah. You know, sometimes when you're young and exuberant, you think it's something you can just get up and do, but they would have indicated to me that I had to apply to the Ministry of Health, which is fine. You know, I understand the protocols, and so that was done for a brief period, and then, you know, we had to discontinue, put that aside. We've had this health medical fundraiser over there in the Brick Hill area, but it's a joint partnership between the communities of Butlers and Brick Hill, and we have raised some significant funds over the years, and have donated every penny to patients or individuals who we would identify at the point of starting that fundraiser. So before it is held, we said person A or person B, we are donating the funds to that person or those persons. So this year we are doing the same thing again, and I believe we already have 2 persons in mind who we will be raising those funds for. So when I say I'll put you on the spot, I believe we spoke about it some time ago, and you did mention that you're willing to come to do maybe some health checks.
Yes.
Health checks that morning, yeah? And it will be the 24th of May, with Monday. So I'm going to remind you.
Okay, no problem.
I mentioned it here so that when we archive this show, I can go back.
You got evidence.
Yes. But it's usually a good event because the entire community over there and the whole of Nevis would patronize, and this year we're going a step further in making it even bigger so that we can raise even more funds, because medical expenses are expensive.
Really?
But medical expenses can be high.
Yes.
It is an expensive thing to undertake, so we want to make sure that we are assisting this year as well. So I'm going to remind you of that, and so we continue to do what we're doing. Okay, very
no problem.
So it's yes.
You just one request. You bring your best domino players.
Okay. Well, I hope I don't have to import them because I think we have good quality players over there. So I'm going to get the tables and I'm going to get the dominoes.
Let's go.
And we'll have that a part of the event as well too, yeah? Okay, very good. So we'll plan out that accordingly. Yes, okay, Doc. So it's now 10 minutes too. So at least we've had a good run. And any final thing you'd want or words of encouragement you'd want to?
Well, I just want to tell the people that regardless of what the situation is, whether it's early or late, there's always hope and there's always strength in relying on the ones closest to you. It's important to get these screenings done, like we said. Even if it's just once a year, you go get a checkup done and you do the appropriate screenings for your appropriate age, guided by your doctor. All right?
Yeah. Okay, good. And in closing this particular segment out, I just want to say that we, when we're young, we learn to read. And when we are much older, as we are now, we should read to learn. And there are lots of things out there to learn about our health and our well-being. So I'm encouraging one and all to read, stay abreast of what is happening, in the medical community. There must be something there that we can hold on to that would make a difference in our lives. Yeah? Dr. Browne, I want to thank you for coming here this afternoon on short notice. And I did say that doctors should operate like this. Short notice, that is the way the practice is as well. Someone call you later this afternoon, whatever you're doing, you have to drop it and run and go.
Right.
And make that your priority, right? So I appreciate you taking up the offer to come here today, and I believe there are persons out there who are listening, who would have been encouraged in some way, but also learned something from our discourse here this afternoon, and it is to their advantage, that they would have learned something here this afternoon. And I certainly appreciate you coming and imparting your knowledge here with us, and we'll call on you again some other time, I'm sure. Yeah?
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I just have a few minutes to impart a few more things. So as you do you have someone to take you back?
Yeah, man.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Right, but thanks for having me, eh?
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to finish up on a few things. So if you're ready to go or you want to stay, it's up to you. You go.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for coming. And I'll just finish up the program in the next 10 minutes and just say that at least we just finished speaking to Dr. Tivon Browne. Those persons in the St. James area, especially butlers, would know Tivon very well. He grew up in that area, and he has been making his contribution here on the island of Nevis, and we certainly appreciate his effort. And it is this type of thing we expect from our young people. In the past, there are persons who would have said that, well, they don't want to hear anything from young people. I don't want the young doctors to touch me because they're going onto Google and all kind of search engine to find out what treatment and all kind of rubbish. But I am so happy when our young people, especially the young doctors that we have here on the island of Nevis, gone are the days when we had to depend on doctors coming from far-flung places, bringing them here on contracts to work at the Alexandra Hospital or whatever the case might be. We do have quite a number of young doctors, young specialists here on the island of Nevis, and it is important that we continue to embrace our people and to ensure that they continue to play that part in making sure that we continue to be a healthy nation. That being said, quickly, I know we didn't get into the usual things we should do at the start of the program in terms of acknowledging those persons who are celebrating, whether birthday or anniversary. But I want to say to one and all who are celebrating, whether birthday or anniversary, well, have fun today. I know for sure today is the anniversary of Mr. Vernon Evelyn and Mrs. Marilyn Evelyn from up there in Spring Hill in the Fountain area. Vernon is a member of my church over there, the St. James Anglican Church. So Vernon, I want to say happy anniversary to both you and Marilyn. And I know you would have a good time today because you know how to have a good time, I'm sure. So I wish you all the best and God's blessings for many more years of your union and your time together. I want to also say happy birthday to Ernestine Rollins, who is celebrating today. Ernestine, I think I picked that up somewhere, so if I'm right, I say happy birthday to you, and I think I'm correct, I hope. Anyway, have fun today, Ernestine. And tomorrow, of course, is the birthday of my good friend there, Yolande Maynard. Well, no, let me get it right, Kareem Wilkin. Back in the day, he was Yolande Maynard, yeah? But Kareem Wilkin, he's somewhere up there in North Carolina, I believe. So he will get a chance to listen to this program at some point. Happy birthday to you, Yolande. Well, you know, I think you know how to celebrate and how to have fun. So have fun on your birthday tomorrow. And all those who are celebrating tomorrow, I think David Johnson is celebrating tomorrow. David has been around here on Navis for many, many years. I would have known him since the days of Four Seasons back in the early 90s, and he's still here with us. And of course down there in the Virgin Islands, Vern Nisbet, who I know very well as well. And all those of you who will be celebrating over the next couple of days and leading into next week. As I always say, celebrate as if it's the last birthday you're celebrating, but we wish you many more. And while you're at it, spend whatever you can on yourself to ensure that you have a wonderful time. I have the data for the Wally Water Taxi Facility for January. I'll just give them now and then expound some more next week, hopefully. But anyway, for January 2026, we would have seen passenger movement of just about 30,512 passengers. That is 15,436 passengers coming from Reggae Beach to Wally Water Taxi Facility, and then of course 15,076 passengers going from Wally to Reggae Beach, for a total of 30,512 passengers. Compared to last year, there has been a good increase. Last year we saw 25,436 passengers moving in and out of that facility over there at Wally, and of course that shows that the facility continues to see a significant increase in the number of passenger movement month over month, year after year, and that is what it is intended to do in terms of what we were hoping to accomplish, and that is the ease of access by Nevisians going to St. Kitts and the ease of access of Kittitians coming to Nevis, or let's say vice versa, whether it's Kittitians leaving Nevis to go to St. Kitts or Kittitians leaving St. Kitts to come to Nevis, whatever the case might be. So that ease and that quick movement, reliability, all those positive adjectives are what we were hoping to accomplish, and that is what we have accomplished with this particular facility. So thus far, for this point in time, as at the end of January, 1,437,971 passengers have utilized the facility over there. Significant indeed, and we surely love what is happening over there, because we can talk for a whole 20 minutes about the impact of such investment, and the investment continue to see significant returns in all areas. And so as I speak about the airport from time to time, it is the same impact we are hoping to see. But before I close, let me also say that I heard a notice here on Von Radio regarding the parking lot over there at Wally Water Taxi Facility. I believe that the notice indicated that persons with boats and trailers, for example, in the parking lot over there at Wally Water Taxi Facility, to have them removed by Sunday the 15th of February. I believe that's the date I would have heard, and the notice will probably come on here, again, for persons to hear. Now, the reason why I believe the administration is asking for those equipment or boat and trailer to be removed is because they want to start some work to get the parking lot expanded over there. As you drive through the area, there are quite a number of vehicles on the Island Main Road. The whole idea is to try to eliminate some of that and to ensure there's a safe place to park vehicles, those persons who go across the St. Kitts or leave here to go abroad and would leave their vehicle behind. We want them to be safely parked and out of the traffic, so that we can have traffic flowing smoothly and eliminate some of the congestion that would happen from time to time over there to Wally. So those who have any equipment, boat or trailers in the parking area or parking lot over there at Wally Water Taxi Facility, you're asked to remove them by the 15th of February. They are very expensive equipment, and no one would want the equipment to be damaged. So go and secure your equipment so that the authorities can go and do what is necessary to improve the parking over there. It is long in the making, and it's about time for some work to be done. Yeah. And also quickly before I run, no, well, time is up, so can't say much more. I'll just leave it as that, and then next week we'll continue accordingly. So that is the show for today. I'm seeing 2 o'clock on the dot, and I want to thank everyone for listening today. I want to thank specifically Dr. Tivon Browne for coming this afternoon and imparting some knowledge on the heels of World Cancer Day, which was celebrated on Wednesday the 4th of this week. He would have done a marvelous job in giving us some information here this afternoon. I want to thank you for listening once again. And as I always say when I leave, if you go to church on a Saturday, please go and serve your God. If you go on a Sunday, please go and do likewise. And of course, pray for this station, pray for me, pray for the island of Nevis, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Pray that we can certainly be better persons here on the island, and pray that we'll have the strength and the wisdom and everything to ensure that we continue to build on what we have, so that this island and country can continue to be a gem here in the Caribbean and throughout the world as well too. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, a safe and pleasant weekend, and God's willing, we'll be back next Friday same time to have another edition of this show. Thank you and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views